of Roanoke is one of America's greatest mysteries. The early colony was led by John White, who left for a supply trip that was supposed to last only 3 months. But because of a war going on at the time, White could not get funding for a trip back home. 3 years later, he was able to get back to the colony only to find its disappearance. The whereabouts of the colony are still unknown today, and our job as students is to create a theory using the evidence given and prove what we believe happened. Let's continue.
This is one of the watercolor painted maps by John White. He was sent on the Roanoke expedition by Sir Walter Raleigh as the map maker and artist. As you can see, this is where the camp is located, and surrounding the camp are these little figures of Indians. These Indians carry weapons that are made to kill. So we believe that this is a symbol that these Indians were very violent.
Here we have our theory and 2 others that we thought about prior. The second that you see here is that the Roanoke colony joined the Indians, but we were able to prove that wrong because there were a couple problems with that idea.
Yes, Cameron, that's correct. The people of Roanoke, before they moved to the New World, were very wealthy. They had servants and maids to do all their dirty work for them. So if they were to try to join the Indians, they would not have wanted to do any of the work, which is not the Indian way. So the Indians would have dismissed them from their tribe immediately. Also, in addition to, there were 117 colonists. That is far too many people to just poof out of existence to an Indian tribe. Even if they did split up, people would have realized, hey, there are like 50 more Indians than there were last time. Also, they could not have joined the Indians because the Europeans brought over diseases that they themselves had already become immune to, but the Indians had never been exposed to these diseases. Therefore, it would have wiped out that Indian population.
Okay, now let's talk about John White. He was born in London in the year 1840, and he became an artist, a map maker, and the governor of the English settlement on Roanoke Island, which we know now as the Lost Colony. Many have theorized that John White could have killed off the colony, and a lot of those theories were made because of the supply trip that he took. The theory states that he knew how long it would take to get back because he knew about the war, and it is said that he went a little crazy on his ship back home and decided to take over the colony. But we were able to poke holes in that theory very quickly. John White would not have been selected by Sir Walter Raleigh or even approved by Queen Elizabeth if he wasn't mentally ready to be governor. Also, his granddaughter and family were a part of the colony, and he wouldn't have killed them, therefore ruling him out. Now the theory we're left with is that the Roanoke colony were killed by Indians, more specifically the Croatoans.
To word it more professionally, they were wiped out by the Croatoans. Our reasoning for this theory is that these colonists settled on a part of tribal territory that the Croatoans had originally planned to make their entire island their inhabited home. They were also a very big danger to the Indians because of all the advanced weaponry that they carried around with them. And also they had valuable items that the Indians didn't know about, like the pottery and clothing that the Indians would have wanted to use. Some of the other people thought that they could have been put into Indian tribes because of their clothing. Well, if they were put into that tribe, again, as we said before, there isn't a really possible way that they could have survived with them. So, we believe that after they had vanquished the colonists, they took their clothes as part of the materials that they would wear.
Here we have our proof. So first on the list is there were footprints. There were 3 sets of footprints, and the first one we're going to talk about are the ones that led to the hatchet. And we can kind of guess that they were male footprints because the hatchet had a fingerprint which had low amino acid levels, which means male. With the footprints, the right side was always darker than the left side, which indicates more pressure, and we can guess that he was limping or was having trouble walking on his left foot, which means that he was hurt. And then we've got the two other footprints on the stage, which are smaller and tells us that they were younger, probably children. And then there was the toddler. And a lot of those 2 footprints were leading to places that you could get in easy and hide. And which is a child's natural instinct, is to hide when they're in danger. Then we have Croatoan being written on one of the stumps, which we believe is telling the attacker's name. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, they would have put a Maltese cross if they were in danger. So we think that the Croatoans, in order to cover themselves up, chopped down the tree that they had a Maltese cross on, because they knew what it meant, and they were both of the trees were stumps. And then the Croatoans' motive would have been to take over the land that they were using, and the Croatoans could have done it easily because they were such a bigger, more powerful group than the Roanoke's. And then we have broken pottery. So people argue saying that weather could have destroyed the pottery easily, but the pottery was really thick and would have been really hard to break, even if you were trying, even if you stepped on it and you were trying to break it. It's difficult because it's thick. And weather, yes, would have worn away at it, but it wouldn't have shattered it like you see on the stage.
Here are some pictures that we have taken from the stage. Down here we have pots and jars that the Indians would have taken to use since they only had woven baskets. Up here is the shattered pottery that we were talking about, the amino acid testing, and here is one of the stumps that had CRO written on it, trying to spell out Croatoan, but we believe that the person who was trying to etch this into the stump was killed before he finished. There it is. On this one, you can see this jewelry that is up here, which indicates the wealth that the colonists had before they moved. Also, you can see here with the low amino acid levels and high amino acid levels. Sorry, Cameryn. There were women and men at this camp. Here are some of the footprints of the children. These are the footprints. I don't know if you can see with the picture, but you can definitely see on the stage that this one is lighter in color and this one is much darker. Here are some more pictures. Here's another one, the brass buttons indicating the wealth, because other people who were in England, their buttons were usually made of wood. And brass buttons, metal buttons, indicates wealth of the person.